Welcome to Flanders Game TCG. This episode I'll be going over a OP12 cards for deck building guide, where I'll be going over cards that aren't consistent into certain types that can be used in deck building into a large range of different decks, especially off-meta ones. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you like more of this content, tell me below in the comments. First up, we've got Shakuyaki. This allows you to look at the top 5 cards and find an event or a Monkey D. Luffy. I feel like this would be typically quite good in any Straw Hat package that you're going to be playing in any decks, or anything that's heavily in events, something like a Sugar or obviously the new Rayleigh coming out. I think key cards that could be working with this is any Luffy or any thing that's wanting to search like Divine Departure, or any removal cards specifically like Marco or something. I think this would be quite useful in. Next we have Hutchan. So Hutchan is a character that allows you to rest this character and reveal 2 event cards from your hand, and then give those 2 rested Don to a leader or a character. So it's quite useful, I believe, in a lot of event heavy decks such as Sugar, or maybe even some of the chopper builds you see with Animal where they want to have that mole gun event, or anything that wants Divine Departure as well. So I think ideas I would probably decks I chuck this in is maybe like a Chopper, or anything that's running the Straw Hats build potentially, or Garp, because Garp you can run some events in to get that initial minus cost, because you're trying to avoid that 7 cost or lower for the higher cost of cards. So potentially could go in there. Next we've got Boa Hancock. That allows us to look at the top 5 cards and find a red event or Luffy card. So this is the same as Shakuyaki, but the only difference is it's not a 1k counter. It is an extra cost sitting at 3k, but it can trash itself to put 2 rested Don under a leader or character. So this is really useful for any leader that wants to have that underneath there initially. So I'm looking at like Marco, I'm looking at Garp for minus reduction, I'm looking at Sabo wanting to get the extra Don. So there's a lot of different things you can kind of play around that with. The only thing is a brick, so potentially if you're trying to run this in your deck, it's going to actually be taking the spot of something else. Something like a Monet might actually be better though. So next we've got Shanks. It's a 4 cost 6k blocker that on opponent attacks you can trash a card and you can give minus 2k to a leader or character for the turn. So I think this is quite useful because it allows you to really make any card a 2k, which we've already seen in Odin when it used to be strong was really powerful. But it also, more than anything, is a 6k blocker, which is really nice against all these 6k leaders that are coming out and are kind of starting to take control a little bit. So next we've got Monkey D. Luffy. So this really helps fit the aggro game, as it allows you to have, if you have 2 or more attached on the field, this character gains 2000 power, and you can reveal 2 event cards from your hand to play something with 3000 or less, and then give a rested Don to a leader or character. This is really good in any animal package or straw hat package, which always requires kind of 1 Don underneath a character or a leader. Or you've got Sabo, which needs a little bit more buff and power so they can start putting things into life. So it kind of is really playing into those going wide boards early for red, and I believe that it's kind of going to be a staple in any of them if you're going to be running a lot of events as well, to remove some key pieces that are getting in your way. So overall, the cards that we've kind of highlighted from this upcoming set are really all key around having events in hand. So we really want to be looking at decks that play that for these new packages coming in. So what I'm thinking is Sugar likes to play a fair amount of events, especially countering, so that could be played in here. Caesar Clown also likes to play a few events just for helping removal, but not as much. Marco, potentially, I'm wanting to have a look at, because you could probably try and play some kind of removals, obviously blue being obviously the extra hand is quite useful, extra card in hand, or it's going to be really useful in those aggro go wide decks with really low costs, so like Chopper and Zoro, which want to be able to control the board with events while swinging through with their characters as much as possible. Next up, we've got Perona. So the effect of Perona is if your leader has a slash ability, you can look in the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal 1 slash attribute card or 1 green event, and add it to your hand, place the rest at the bottom of your deck. This I find quite useful as just a generic searcher, and then for any slash leader, it'll be able to just search for anything you'd like. Though it doesn't work with Perona, that is quite a sad thing, as you know, it would have been great to be able to see this pop off with Ryuma and stuff, but you'll still be able to do it with other decks. Next we have Koshiro. This is another form of protection in green, but with the limit of that has to be a character of 5 costs or less, and that is a slash type. It kind of follows a similar trend we've seen with Toshigi and Rosinante, where we're starting to see a lot of cheap protection for green, while they can then protect those big bodies to swing in. The only thing that's to be interesting also is that it is an East Blue character, so Kuro and Arlong might be seeing, you know, some extra support here. Might have to try out, as they're also slash leaders. Next we have Ipponmatsu. So this is an anti-rest blocker. I need to double check this, but I believe it's the first that I've ever seen of this kind of effect, and it's especially in green, so it's going to be kind of used to counter the green versus green matchup. It's quite interesting. It's also East Blue, so it's going to be potentially in those Arlong or Goro passages. That could be pretty cool. But yeah, otherwise it's a blocker. I'm just interested to see like how this anti-rest blocking is going to go. I feel like this is going to be quite a pain for a lot of people. Next we have Jewelry Bonnie. So this is if you have 8 or more cards, rested cards, you can draw 2 cards and trash one from your hand. And you can set one of your Don as active. It's a 5 cost 6k blocker, which is quite nice, especially as I've mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of 6k leaders. So the one thing we find also really useful is it's the way to kind of end your turn here. Because of that 8 or more rested cards, you're most likely swinging with a lot of small bodies, or spending a little bit of your Don first and swinging in also with a leader. And using this to kind of end your turn by dropping a blocker and drawing some cards to prepare yourself for a defensive. They're also setting one Don active is quite useful. We're seeing a lot more of these 1 cost main effect slash counter effects events, and I believe this is going to be quite useful in decks like Rosinante, Zoro, Sanji, and both the different laws, among obviously the Bonnie and other stuff as well. So next we've got Dracula Mihawk. So this is an 8 cost 8k blocker that allows us to set 4 of our rested Don as active at the end of the turn, and it allows us to play a 6 cost or less. The cool thing about this is it can kind of go into a lot of different decks because of how versatile it is you're allowed to develop 2 bodies quite quickly with an 8 and 6. So giving us 14 Don play at 8 is honestly so good. Bring back Moria basically vibes. So things you could play with this is like Kinemon could be cool if you're playing like a Land of Wano package. You've got Krieg for East Blue. Basil Hawkins could be good, nice with Bonnie. Or we've got Jinbei, the new one for any Fishman leader. So there's a lot of different things you can play with this, which will really optimize on this card. But yeah. Overall, leaders I different think that could be played through these new green cards coming out would be anything that's like slash type. So we're looking at like the 2 laws, Kuro and Arlong for East Blue. Or we've got Zoro Sanji for a lot of like shenanigans or bouncing things back. Smoker is also a nice like aggressive one you can play if you want to play that with some of the red cards I've mentioned before as well. So kind of play like that go wide aggressive style with some events to blow things up. So for blue cards, we've got the first one looking at is Sengoku. So this allows you to trash a card and look at the top 5 cards of your deck and pull 2 navy types and add them to your hand. This I feel like is really good as it allows you to load up that grave, especially if you're playing this with a black deck as well. And you get to, if you're playing Kuzan, then draw an extra card from that. So you're going to get a lot of hand advantage from this, especially if it ends up being paired up with that other black Sengoku, which has the extra draw, so you'll be able to really start cycling through everything. One thing I'd say it's also quite nice is if you've been playing like a control deck, like likes to go second, and they force you to go first. This could be nice instead of doing like a big swing in, just getting an extra few cards just to develop a little bit more of an advantage. So things you could probably see this in is obviously the new Kuzan, but I'd also try and like to see this in like the Sakazuki. I know it's been banned and it's got that rework, but potentially you could try it out and see if it works now. Kuzan, who's a 6 cost 8k, that if you have 5 cards or more in hand, it gains +1 cost. And if you trash a card from your hand, you can freeze one of your opponents from attacking. This is quite good because it allows you to control the board a bit. And with the plus cost, it avoids Gravblade, so it can't be put in the bottom of the deck, and it can avoid some other 6. Next, we've got Monkey D. Garp. This is a card that on play, if you trash a card, will allow you to play a Navy character with 8 costs or less, other than Garp itself, from your hand. So this is quite nice. It allows you to establish 2 boards, and you can play quite a few interesting things at the moment with that quite high cost navy. So those can include the old Borsellino that bot decks a 4 cost, Aramaki, the 8 cost blocker that can chomp on anything small. Overall, looking into blue, the main things I'm kind of seeing coming out is navy focus, so we're really only going to be looking at Kuzan or Sakazuki, I think, in this situation. For purple, we're seeing a few less cards that are quite interesting for a lot of different decks, or staples or generic cards as I call them. So we've got Pudding. This allows you to look at the top 4 cards and reveal a Sanji or event card. This can be quite useful in anything that wants to run the block of Sanji and the rush Sanji, so a Straw Hat build that also wants events. So it's looking at a lot of the current purple Luffy builds. We've also got the added option of the just focusing on the events part of this, and maybe having like the 2k blocker Sanji in a deck that wants to play a lot of events. So you'd be looking at things like Sugar, you'd be looking at Doflamingo, just anything that's really want to focus on something like grabbing a Ragnarok to get rid of that pesky kid that's on the board or something like that. Next, we've got Trafalgar Law. This has an on play. If you have less Don or equal to than your opponent, you can add a Don and have that as active. And your Rosinantes and Heart Pirates gain 1000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. This can be quite good in anything that's playing like a Hearts Pirates passage. So that can include like RP Law, or maybe if you want to try something with Foxy. The Sugar package does run a Rosinante, so that'd be quite good if you want to start swinging with it, but protect it a little bit more by putting it up to a 7k. But yeah, apart from that, it's a bit of a mid-range card, could be better. Overall, across purple, I'm seeing a lot of support for Grape Dofi, Sugar, potentially like a Katakuri or Foxy with something like this Law, where you could try and play like a minus Don, especially with that Katakuri, and play a lot of Heart Pirates. Next up with the black cards, we've got Bella Betty. So this is a 3 cost 4k that has a 2k counter, but has the effect of when attacking, trash 2 cards from the top of your deck and give a character up to -2 cost during this turn. This can be super useful in a lot of different decks. A lot of black decks want to be trashing cards to be able to then play them from the grave or do anything special effects. Like Desrosa would want them to get to that 15 threshold to start proccing some of the additional options on their event cards or characters. Or with the new 5 Elders coming out, this would help you get to that 7 card count as fast as possible. And it's also a 2k, so it can kind of go in anything because you just need to be tossing it if you really don't want to play it. It does obviously have the disadvantage of having to wait till the next turn to be able to trigger its effect, but you'll be at least drawing out some KO potential on a 2k 3 cost that you're just going to throw away if they don't play it anyway. So it's quite good, I believe. I could believe that this deck card could go into any deck, I think. Honestly, it just fills a spot if you're thinking like maybe a Toshigi that you're normally going to be playing rested, so can't play itself, can't trigger its effect or something. Next we've got Poker. This is a 3 cost 1k. Activate main, place 3 cards for your trash back into the deck in any order, and give 2 smile characters plus 2000 during the power this turn. Honestly, the only thing I've really made me go, this is an interesting card, is I was like, wow, smile type. I haven't seen that in a long time. So I kind of just want to try some maybe like King deck with Animal Kingdom Pirates with the this and then also the purple cards, and just try some kind of like aggro go wide build with a few of the cards like Hamlet, the Devil Fruit. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Try that out. Overall, for the black decks, we've kind of just got support for King, and then just any generic thing with Bella Betty. The rest of the cards are all just Revolutionary Army and all pivoted towards the new Koala or old Sabo or potentially future Sabo. So I think the main part of this is just there's these 2 cards. We can probably get them pretty cheaply and toss them in some decks and have some fun. Next up for the yellow cards, we've got Baby 5. This is a 4 cost 5k that is a 2 cost counter. The main thing we like about this is if you have a multicolored leader, you draw 2 cards, so it's kind of similar to a Shirahoshi with the trigger. The only thing is you don't have that on play doing able to do it as well, but it is a 2k counter. So this potentially could go in basically any multicolored yellow deck that just wants to be drawing cards in those clutch scenarios. Then we have Bartholomew Kuma at the 6 cost 7k that allows you to gain a life early on by trashing a card in hand. This is quite nice. It's one of the earliest forms of gaining life, apart from like a Kikanoju when your opponent's already a little low. And it has the added bonus of being a 1k counter, so unlike the other life gain high end you see, where it can't be used as a counter, this actually will be able to sustain you through that early game if you need to just get rid of it, because you're going to just see your high end otherwise. Then we have Doflamingo, an 8/8 rush if you've got 2 or less life, and on KO on opponent's turn, you can add a light card to your life. This I think is quite useful, as it allows you to basically in any yellow deck have an early nice rush, especially if you're taking life early like a Sabo or an Enel. And with the on KO, it gives that a little extra protection where it can only really be dealt with by Red Rock. Next I've got 2 cards, so I'm going to combine in one, which is the Demoric Aura 1 cost, because I'm not going to say the full name, or it's the 2 sword style 1 cost. The main thing about these cards to note is that they're quite a popular trend at the moment, where we're starting to see these events that are a 1 cost, where you can rest some extra Don and do something, or they will give your leader plus 3000 as a counter. Some other examples we have is like Divine Departure, Phoenix Pineapple, if I pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry, Gear 2, Gum Red Hawk. But the only thing is to note is a lot of these are leader only. So if you're seeing that 1 Don up a lot of the time, you can also start to imagine that this is going to start being a base of 3k for the leader. Meaning that people's characters might be more available to just hit into. Lastly, we have Boffier Blurst. This is an interesting card, as if your leader is multicolored, you can either return a character to the opponent's hand over forecast, or if you have 6 or less cards in hand, can draw 2 cards. This is quite nice because it kind of becomes like a Sanji Pilaf that allows you to also use it as removal as well. I think the only thing is obviously it doesn't have a trigger. This could be played in a lot of decks, especially if you want something with a bit of control and draw, so maybe like a Boa, or even potentially in the new Kuzan. Or if you start adding it with black and with the new Sakazuki stuff, you could really start being able to draw those cards from all your trashing and start bot decking anything that's a 4 cost or less with your minus cost. Also to note, this is a Straw Hat card, so it can be searched by the blue Capone. Well, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Put down in the comments of what cards that you're looking forward to in OP12 and what decks you're looking to play. I'll be looking to set up some more regular streaming times. I'll reach out and post comments around when those will be. Thank you.